Hey, and welcome to the Weed Out, where we weed out the nonsense and talk about the bullshit in our backyard. I'm Spencer Fox Peterson, as always, with my partner.
Hi, everyone. I'm Joanna May Booty.
Wonderful. This week we have our friend Michael Hitchcock back on. He was on early on the pod. He was one of our guinea pigs for our interviewing, as since we're rookies at it. And it was a really great conversation. So if you like this conversation and you haven't heard that episode, feel free to go back. We're on episode 32. So we're still here, 3/4 of a year down, talking about nonsense and good things. A lot of union talk recently. Barnes and Noble Hadley, just remind everybody, we did an episode with the organizers over there, and Barnes and Noble Rutgers, their sibling store in New Jersey, just won their election with the overwhelming majority voting for the union. So that's the update there. Shout out to the Barnes and Noble unions. So as much as we talk nonsense and ghoulery, where we also talk about good things that the community is doing. That's why we're having Michael back on. So Joanna, do you have any thoughts before we get into it with Michael?
I just want to say I'm really excited that Michael's here, and it was episode 14, and it was an episode that we got a lot of really good feedback on. So, like you said, Michael always has so many positive things to say, even when talking about some of the most negative things. So I am so glad he's here to talk to us about what's happening in his organization and in his life and in my hometown of Pittsfield and the Berkshires in general.
So yeah, just to remind everybody, this is Michael Hitchcock. He's an organizer in Pittsfield. Joanna's known him a long time. He's going to tell us about his organizing, and it'd be great to hear what he has to say. So welcome on, Michael. How are you doing today?
I'm pretty good today. We were just talking about how that's one of the most impossible questions in our entire experience to answer. There's so many possible levels of detail. I have friends we could do the whole hour on how you're doing today. So uh, I'm good.
That's great. So Joanna, as usual, do you want to take the lead on chatting to Michael?
So just to remind the audience, the it's is it a nonprofit? Roots, Dreams, and Mustard Seeds.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
are a real life nonprofit.
I never want to mislabel, and I thought so, but so last time we talked about how that's an organization that you're on the board of, and your wife is she the executive or like the main character?
Well, she's not listening now, so on paper I'm the executive,
Oh
but it's a
wow.
co-director
Awesome.
situation.
That's nice.
She gets upset when I assert my title, but uh,
I,
um,
I get it.
we're really sharing the executive responsibilities for real though.
That's awesome. It's like a excuse me. It's like a nice I guess family business or not or not business. It's nice to be able to, I guess, work together with someone you love. And I'm just guessing, so you can correct me. In a community that I grew up in to try to make really positive change. I hope that feels good.
Yeah,
It sounds really nice.
I like it. One of the main things is that with her, I she has my absolute trust. So if we ever get to a spot where we disagree, it's a straight shot to my humility and my heart to to understand for sure that this disagreement is highly likely to be from something I misunderstood, didn't see, or didn't prioritize properly. Like, I trust her so much that I know, unlike with other people, if we have a disagreement, I can be pretty sure I'm right. But with her, she has total trust. I know that she's coming from a good place. So I will either grill her incessantly to persuade myself to adopt her opinion, or through the grilling we'll find out I was actually right. But it's pretty even on that because she's very perceptive and differently intelligent than I
If
am.
you could remind the audience what your what the function of root seeds and mustard seeds. Sorry, wow, I butchered that. Uh,
That's okay. Even people who've given us thousands of dollars say it wrong. It's roots and dreams and
and
mustard
so is an
seeds.
and. Okay, cool.
Yeah, there's
Maybe
a double and. Our mission is to increase working class ownership and control of the land, natural resources, government, and economy. And if that sounds broad, it is, but anything that has to do, like the Barnes and Noble labor union would be in our mission, but they didn't need our help. They don't even know us, that I'm just proud of them. But that's the kind of stuff, like any subject that comes up, does this increase working class ownership and control or not? So we're not going to advocate for like what was that liberal position, like nobody should be without a lawyer in a time of eviction, was like a liberal position that disgusted me. But we would support like cooperatively owned housing.
Right. Yeah, they're talking about the very last tourniquet. Talking about It's just like, neoliberal policies in general, like Joe Biden, Grandpa Joe. He just today posted something today, March 16th, about or today's March 5th, May 15th, not March. Excuse me, everybody. May 15th. And today's National Peace Officers Day. And it's like, man, fuck you. Like, they have so many fucking days and weeks and yada yada yada. Not to get off topic, but it's typical of me to go to police. But yeah, I mean, that doesn't help me, man. That doesn't help working class, and the police their function is anti that. So of course, and leave it to a neoliberal to think about, oh, we'll step in and help you when it's way too fucking late, instead of fixing the system that created the housing on a capitalist supply demand, bullshit. We all need a place to live. But you know how it goes. So yeah, let's leave it to a neoliberal to swing and miss at the point. But it's great that you guys are focused on that, and it does sound extremely broad. So could you maybe like give us some tangible examples that would be representative of how broad your organization is? Does that make sense?
Yep. So what is this? May 15 we've established. So then, okay. So in the last year, we worked on the baby steps for a coalition to find funding and support and planning for cooperatively owned housing. And the intention there would be to have the bottom be market rate business rental to feed money into the network, but everyone else who actually lives there as a human being just paying their fair share of the maintenance costs after the profits of the rental downstairs have been subtracted. And that we would be shooting to expand that model, and even advocate for zoning changes to bring back like neighborhood first floor butcher shops or florists or whatever, so that we could keep buying up more land for decommodifying the whole market. But that's like in the baby steps. In the last year, we helped advocate strongly for a statewide coalition to create stipends so regular ass poor people could attend like planning and visioning meetings and afford to take the day off for like the Solidarity Economy Network or the Coalition of Worker Ownership Power, who do a lot of events in tandem. And I'm a member of those groups. And they found my advocacy persuasive enough that a number of people were paid $600 to attend a festival about these subjects of cooperative business stuff. Our most successful thing in the last year, I think, is that one of our things for this is helping democratize a nonprofit or community group. So if we are working with you as a community group or a nonprofit, which usually it's only grassroots who work with us, like United Way perhaps, or the big people, they wouldn't be using us this way, but we will help make sure that your membership has a say in how you're running and how the resources are distributed. And really it's the same as a cooperative business or a cooperative house. Is it's your chance as a regular ass person to help determine how resources are garnered and distributed. And so that's like the blunt end of our mission is resource distribution. But we have shared our tax ID status with a number of these community groups so that they can apply for grants in partnership with us, or in some cases just apply for their own grants with our number without interference from us. It depends on the program. Most organizations that do this type of thing charge a flat fee of 10%. We have charged zero so far, 0%, because it's kind of rude to, in our opinion, to just, oh, thank you for applying for a thing through our name. But we are going to change it a little for this coming year, where we will calculate an estimate of how much work it would do on our end to apply for, to give oversight to make sure the grant is being used for the things that they said they're using it for. And if they want further participation from us, we'll make an estimate and then we'll take a cut of the grant based on that estimate, or 10%, whichever is lower. So, but we're not doing that yet. Right now, we're still just at zero.
No, that's great. I think, there is a reality. We're all, pinching pennies. So like, it's good to be charitable. But sometimes, we got to figure something out, especially if there's work involved. You need to be paid for your labor. And that sounds exactly the way it should work. And everybody is clear on the terms before they get involved. And that's, I don't know. It sounds like a consenting democracy, and and it's a way to, manipulate or work within the system of red tape with dealing with getting government grants. So
that's right. The final thing, and it'll give you, half of the flavor of what we're up to. I'm kind of proud of our work with this Mercado de Vida. It's a food pantry that May through October gives fresh food to people, or June through October it's fresh farm food. And we have helped build partnerships with farmers in the area, but we've also built partnerships with funding agencies who are paying these farmers to supply our pantry. And also, the pantry was started by one group that sort of like dropped the ball kind of bad, and then it was picked up by another group, and then the first group came back, and there's a big discussion, fight, battle over who really owns the program. And so we actually got to step in to throw our weight around and say this is now a community run program between us, and invite all the people who were fighting to now work with us. And we're still in the middle of that. It's really difficult, but everyone trusts us to some degree or another to make sure the people are respected and their labor is respected. So that's something I'm a little proud of. There's plenty of other stuff, but that gives you guys a taste. Anyone who hasn't heard of
just
us
for
before.
my butcher self, which farms are you working with? Maybe I've heard of them, and we're going to check them.
Oh, there's, my wife's smarter at this question. I'm drawing a blank on the one farm. I helped them build a yurt. Oh, Mumbet Freedom Farm. My wife shouted
Mumbet
from the next
Farm.
room. Thanks. You got another list of farms while you're there? Oh yeah, High Spirit Community
Farm. Cool.
Greenagers. Oh, she's so good at this. One of her skills is interpersonal, and I mean that's typically a femme-coded strength or whatever, but she's also good at inter-organizational relationships, which is sometimes coded as masculine, but she's good at all those kinds of things. And I'm just conceptually there with each of these when we meet, and then I don't remember their names. I remember the people's names, but not the orgs.
we all take in information. I have to this again, this is like my weird tangent, share with everybody. I used to be a butcher, and I got really good at learning customers' names if I took phone orders and or like holiday orders, and I'd have to write their name down here and then have to write them down on the list and write it, and like I would get really good. Like I have to write it down 3 times. It's like I'll match to the face because I'll be thinking about the person while I'm writing their name. And yeah, so I get it, but there's guys I work with that we all have nicknames for each other because I already knew this person because they worked at another facility and now they work at a different facility. So like, that person, but them in context from somewhere else. And none of you ever actually really learned each other's names. They don't know my name either, but it's really fun little camaraderie. And I don't know, it's just people are funny, I guess is really where I was going with that. And
I got you. You know each other on that. Other level.
And like we know whose priority is what without even having to talk about it, because I'm gonna have to see you guys next week, so I don't want to be on your bad side, and it's not like our relationship's over after this one time. But yeah, it's funny. It's just learn people's names. Sorry for going on that tangent. Regardless, I guess like where have you guys been getting funding from? Like how does all this work? I guess it's really
a ton of it is still done with no funding, and then a ton of it is done with funding for programs, but not for us who concoct the network. But beyond that, like we've had like one person privately kept up the space for the food pantry for a while. And some of the city of Pittsfield money that we're getting may be able to apply to the space in which we have a pantry. We have other grants coming from city of Pittsfield for projects I didn't mention. And then we have a few grants out from just different foundations. Like we don't have anything with Fish Foundation right now, but we have in the past. Mark, this is another one. Nicole. Yeah, Markham Nathan. See, I was gonna screw up the name. Yeah, Markham Nathan is one. And who's our biggest funder right now? You don't have to edit this out. Everyone should know we depend on each other. Health Resources in Action. Yeah, how would I remember that?
Oh, you guys are cute.
But I could explain the whole thing we're doing with them. I just forgot what organization they were. So anyway, we're still learning the funding. That's the short of it. So we just got a huge ass grant. That's actually on my notes for what we're going to talk about next, but it was a $200,000 grant for preserving the building we own. And I busted my butt for that, so I can talk about it a little in a minute. So
please do tell us more. So you are located in downtown Pittsfield on Melville Street, if I'm correct.
That is the temporary space that yeah. So that space has been nice. It's on Melville Street. But unfortunately, it's a rental space. And no matter how nice a landlord is, you still don't own that space. We'll say it that way. And our building here on Fenn Street, it was donated basically in the name of another group we work with, Manos Unidas, but they were not able to take the donation for a variety of reasons. But we were, and we have a close relationship with them, and they all agreed that they wanted the building to be run for and by the community, not like for and by them. And so once they said that was like green light, let's make this a real community building. And so because of something else that's in my notes to talk about soon, I knew right away the first thing I had to do was say this catchphrase and say it 1,000 times. Every time we talked about the building, I had to say, anywhere I could shoehorn it in, I'd be like, yeah, because eventually we're going to have people we don't know or don't even like who are going to be running programs in here. And I just repeated it 1,000 times so that people would not feel like they personally owned a community building. And I'm still saying it to people to make sure they really know that what a community building really means. It doesn't mean just our little group of buddies. It means everyone. So that building was donated by a literal Maoist. I thank him, and he like is politically pure in that way, where he did not want to throw his weight around. So he gave us the building and backed off because he does believe that the people must self-determine, and that's something I saw eye to eye on him with. So I reluctantly trusted him, and it paid off. He meant it about backing off. He has not interfered a bit. So this building was, well, okay, the first part of the building was built in like 1840s, and it was just a farmhouse on the outskirts of Pittsfield at the time. Now it's like right across from City Hall as Pittsfield grew around it. And shortly after, another farmhouse was built there. And then in like 1880, I had to learn all this for the grant, so I finally get to use it here for an audience. Ha ha ha. Fast forward 3 minutes if you don't like it. In the late 1880s, it was created, it was turned into the Union for Home Work. And that was a bunch of philanthropists who got together to decide what Pittsfield needed for the poors, for the low class, whatever. And I put this in our application, and our presentation was that we are continuing this work, but we're turning it on its head because we are not from above telling poor people what they need. We are poor people, and we're working with poor people to consult on what we actually need. But for the 1880s, it was a really brave, bold project. They made this home, this former farmhouse, they made it into a cooking school. They made it into the first kindergarten in the area. They made it into a flower selling business to support crippled children, is how they were described in the, I think now we'll call them something else, but that's what it was then, indigent crippled children. And a bunch of other programs were really run out of there. And it was after that, in 1912, it was sold to a forerunner of, I did drop this, but it eventually morphed into a United Way. But in 1932, it was sold to a Italian businessman, the Mangano family. And Mangano bought it in 62. I just dropped the Italian's name for 32, but he built it into a big ass business block. And then it was sold to the Mangano family in 62. And they, then it was handed down through their family through 2012. And sometime during the handed down, it became kind of in disrepair, with roof, foundation, plumbing, electric, all being left, doing only the bare minimum of work required. And then it was bought by a speculative landlord who just made, maybe he would be mad and he'd say he definitely improved it, but our building inspector people and our contractors say that it's been at least 20 years since anything was improved on the building. So we got it in a state of severe disrepair. So it was almost like a poison gift, because it immediately just started costing us resources we didn't have, mostly my labor. Like even just a few weeks back, I was covered in sewage, raw sewage from a pipe that I didn't realize was bursting everywhere until I was already under it. So, but we thought it was worthy and worth investing in. So worked with some people on this Community Preservation Act grant because their whole mission is to identify historically significant buildings and preserve, rehabilitate, or restore them. And those all have specific meanings in their 200-page booklet, which I read. And that's what the grant was based on. The work we needed to do applied to every category in that 200-page booklet. And so after a lot of classist objections to us, like one of the ladies on the committee said, we're just not sure this organization has the gravitas of other organizations we've worked with. And they were just looking for things to say about us. Like we were told our application was the most thorough by far. But they still found all these little insulting objections. How do we know these people represent who they say they represent? And it's just not a question they asked any other group, even like a wealthy group like Berkshire Theater Group that got their application in late and incomplete and still got their funding. We were the only group that got grilled, and it was certainly classism.
Is this a group that's elected by the people, or are they appointed? How's that work?
I don't remember.
Just in case of people voting coming up, I can post it on the notes, but I wondered about that, so I can look into it.
Well, I didn't see anything about that on the election page I was looking at, but that doesn't mean anything.
I'll take a look and I'll leave it for the audience just when they're voting to remember to pick people, or even if it's appointed, to pick people that will appoint people potentially that would support things in the community.
Well, then let me just tell you that Alexandra Groff, who is on that committee, like I cried with gratitude. She stood up and she made this impassioned, but I don't want to overstate it. It wasn't like she hit anything with hammers and sickles, but she like really came down hard against their classism and reminded them that our application was so thorough, and between our first application and final application that we took every single bit of feedback they gave us to improve our application, and that she didn't think the council was treating us as if we'd made those improvements. And she said, furthermore, you have to ask yourself what you mean by equity. We represent a lot of money, and this group represents a lot of people who our money never get to. And that's what made me cry a little, because that sounds like something I might have said. And I was just so grateful to her. So don't vote her out if it's a voted position.
Yeah, I'll take a look and see.
Is it a local council or is it state or federal?
That's a city one. Every city has their own preservation council. Darling, what are you saying to me? Oh, she wants me to name every good person on which is impossible because there was a few. She says, don't forget Kamar Taliaferro. But then I should also mention Danielle Steinman. And then there's a few others that were really great. There was just some classism opposing us. They mostly were good and receptive and asked smart questions. And I enjoyed working with them. And actually the classism surprised me based on our interactions. But yeah.
So that gives you,
so anyway,
that gives you 200,000 for the.
Well, so the city council has to approve the budget.
Oh, okay.
But yes, it gives us 200,000 as long as the city council approves the budget. They've never messed with it before, but that doesn't mean they can't. So anybody who's listening who has a good relationship with their city councilor, you can remind them that this project sounds dope, or however you usually talk to them. Say it sounds really great for the community. I don't care how you talk. However you talk with them is good.
Yeah, we're on the same page when it comes to classism and tone policing, and maybe to our listeners have different points of view. Yeah, I mean, it's tough. I think we all kind of agree here on classism and tone policing people and how the right way to talk. It's very classist. It's yeah. So anybody listening, I understand that people like to. Yeah, this isn't to say you shouldn't talk the way you like to talk. I don't mean you have to all of a sudden be speaking AAVE, what I call Quincy trash talk, which is not AAVE. Sorry to make it sound like they're the same, but working class white guy talk from south of Boston. It's I'm not asking you to sound like that, and I don't even really sound like that. But yeah, it's just one of those things. Anybody listening, friendly reminder: go easy on the civility and tone policing. We got bigger problems, and some people are just expressing how they know how to express. It's kind of ableist too, like everybody expresses differently. And yes, there has to be, we can just infer based on people's behaviors. So sure, I don't know. But that's my ramble. I'm just rambling today, everybody. I don't know.
We want to remind Pittsfield, anyone who lives in Pittsfield, you could remind them that their counselors should support the budget for the community preservation so that Roots and Dreams and Mustard Seeds would get the grant that they applied for the building that they hopefully will use for basically to preserve the community and uplift the community, and it will be on Fenn Street. So we were there, and I wonder, because I know $2,000 is going to be a good chunk, but it sounds like you'll need more than that. So are you still going? Are there more grants? Are there different things people like? Are there things that people can do to help? Like, do you want people to wait until this is done to see how that goes, or should people reach out if they want to support beforehand?
If people felt moved to support, that would be awesome, because there's a bunch of smaller scale things that the community preservation doesn't cover. This $200,000 is going to fix the roof that hasn't been replaced in X years, and it's going to fix a few foundation issues. It's going to replace the sagging cast iron plumbing, and it's going to bring the electrical system up to code. And then the place is still going to look, part of it's going to look like a dump still, with an unfinished floor that was built on top of another floor on top of another floor. There's like a section where you can see 8 layers of floor.
Oh,
And we need to tear that down to a reasonable level and redo it. The whole place is so dark you can't believe it. It's gonna need painting and cleaning. There's all kinds of stuff like that. And we're also looking to develop a budget so that we're pretty sure it's going to be every 3 months. We're going to highlight some artist or artist collaborative and let them decorate the space based on our yearly theme, however they wish. So,
I love that.
Yeah, we don't want it to always be like communal murals with handprints looking like a preschool, but we sometimes want it to be that. And so we do want it to be based on themes. We're discussing themes now. And we thought 3 months was a good chunk of time. Seasonally changing it, it would inspire the artists that we have lined up. If they know they've got a spring, if they've got a spring opening on the dignity of the working class is the theme. We didn't choose that theme. That's just an example. It gives them a chance to like think about combining the season and the theme.
Sounds like you're wish casting.
Yeah, I am. Some of us are a little more clued in and hyped up about labor stuff than others. So I'm always injecting that, because part of our to increase working class ownership and control, you actually have to help the working class recognize itself as a class. So that's like an invisible part of our mission, is the education, so that the working class even knows who it is. So yeah, I am wish casting. I'm always going to be trying to make the art help educate the people who like art. I'm not into only Soviet realism. I'm fine with abstract stuff too. I just sometimes am injecting it. It's not always going to be didactic art. That's why we're leaving it free to the artist to decide. 3 months, do whatever you want. We're not gonna, once we pick you, you're in.
That's exciting. There are some Berkshire, like local artists that I would love to see what they would do with this space, I'm guessing. Yeah.
Oh yeah, tell us.
Sure.
Tell me. Message
I will.
me.
I
I'll
will.
just put them on a list. Because really, we're hoping to always rotate it. And so anyway, we got on that when you asked what people can do, and that was just one example of the kinds of things we could spend money on. Now, right now, we're running a Spanish English language exchange on Monday nights out of there. And we're running is kind of the wrong thing because we're not really doing anything but hosting it and helping remind people that the space costs money. Please donate to the space. I just came in at the beginning of class one day and mentioned it to everyone and said, I will never pressure a single one of you to donate. This is a general announcement. And we did get like $100-something donated that night, which is good because the finances of the space only work out if from either donations or the people running the programs or the organizations, or from our own internal account of donations, somewhere $17 an hour or so has to appear to make the building viable so that we can continue to make the improvements on it and also pay people for the labor that is now volunteer. We really don't want to do volunteers for a few reasons. One, it's exploitative. That's the obvious one. But the other one is that if you do get a volunteer staff, what happens is your volunteers are going to tend to be more wealthy, more comfortable, more free time. And then when you're having discussions about what you should or shouldn't do, your discussions are guided by a group of people that tends more wealthy, affluent, comfortable than the people that you're trying to serve. And you can get misguided in your aims and make stuff that does not reach the people. So we really want to make sure we have enough budget to pay people to clean the building. We can't, if we're cleaning it as volunteers, it's either exploitative or it's mission creep, making us liberal.
Yeah, I think it's hard for people to get past um to make that jump with the volunteering because it's so programmed to almost ask you like, oh, can people volunteer? But I completely agree with you that it is exploitative and that would be the best approach to not do that. But it is so true also that those of those people that can give their time like that have resources that the people in the community that there are many people in the community that may not have that ability. Just having to work maybe two jobs, having so many things, children, just the amount of time that goes into living. Once you're a poor person, I don't think people understand how actually expensive it becomes
Oh my God.
overall and like just taxing on you physically and mentally.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the other thing. You go crazy. If you just worked your 8-hour shift and you had to take the bus there, so you're gone out of your house for 10 hours, and then you have the choice between like resting or interacting with your children. Are you really gonna like go the half hour to go help me vacuum something? Like, shut up. No, you're not. It's not reasonable for me to ask.
Exactly. No, I completely agree. It's just
Yeah.
some people have a lifestyle or are privileged enough where they can give time, and that's awesome. But yeah, you're right. Capitalism kind of keeps us in this disconnect where we can't even work on the things or give time. Not without, I guess, if I think about it, where if I were able to give time and wanted to give time to even my own creative abilities, and under capitalism it's sometimes impossible for people without privilege to do that in any way. Like you said, the rest and care for yourself and children is basically you can just get your basic needs met.
Just go look at like all your favorite actors and go look at how many got help from their families to stick it out. And I'm not saying any of them are bad. They're great. But you either needed to live super poor or get help.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's a choice. But this kind of, I had wanted to tell you all about how the ARPA funding screwed us over, that is related to the subject.
Okay.
I know the polite guest thing to do is wait for a question, but this is so tied to it. So the ARPA funds were really like the most radical thing I've seen our government do maybe in my life, where it was like a recognition that COVID fucked the working class over kind of bad, and we need funding to help. It was tied in with like giving people pandemic unemployment. That whole thing. ARPA was to recover us from this period of unemployment. And that money was supposed to go to underserved communities, whether they were racial minorities, women, poor, disabled, just that whole list of people who get missed by people who could not get PPP loans. Is so we applied for the ARPA funding. First, what we saw was that the ARPA funding had no application on the site, on the city website. And we were looking for it, and we were calling, and they kept saying, oh, we're going to put that up soon. But meanwhile, we would see in the newspaper ARPA funded getting awarded to groups that were already wealthy, actually, like tourist friendly theater groups, or like landlord association real estate developer types, or like a firehouse in an already affluent neighborhood getting a cool like arch put on it or whatever. Some of it I already forgot the details because I was so mad my blood pressure went out of my skull, and I didn't memorize. But anyway, that's the kind of stuff we were seeing in the paper week to week, is ARPA funny money, ARPA funding money being awarded left and right. And we finally got them to put it up application. So we got our groups together to apply, because this whole volunteer thing that I'm talking about, and this whole wanting to own a building so that we can't be messed with anymore, those go into it.
Right.
So this ARPA funding we wanted to use for all this programming, like successful programming we're already doing, like the stuff I already told you about, or the Corazonitos summer camp thing, where we just bring summer camp style activities to the parks where the kids are already playing. The kids who couldn't afford to get sent to camp, we bring the camp to the parks near where they live.
Awesome.
Stuff like that. So it's cool. And we're applying for all this funding to fund the programs. And then, it's a rolling deadline. They say there's no application date. So we're really getting our information together. What's important? What are we going to fund? And then they suddenly put up a deadline, and it's like going to be over. And one of our groups did make it in by that deadline, which it was like, once they put up the deadline, it was like that week, or the 10 days from the day they put it up was the deadline. One of our groups got their application in even under that condition, and we're still told, never mind, you're too late. And we were all told, never mind, you're too late. Nicole, my wife, she made a pretty impassioned appeal to the mayor, like, this money is supposed to be for the regular people. You're giving it to all these rich people. You need to hear what we're trying to do with the money. You need to find a way to give us this money. And the mayor, Linda Tyre, enemy for life, she agreed. She agreed that she had to have a meeting with us. And then she postponed that meeting by a month and a half. Then the morning of the meeting, we were supposed to, now we prepared this meeting really elaborately. I went through all the groups and I coached them for like, that we could have a really tight 22-minute presentation covering our entire broad mission as a network, not just as our group. And like, I also managed that meeting so that I'm reminding people of time quietly without like interrupting them or making myself the center. Everyone else was the center of this meeting. But anyway, Linda Tyre that morning, it was for 10 a.m. She said, "Oh, I can't come until like 1." We said, "Okay." And then at 10 a.m., she had a meeting where she awarded the last of the ARPA funding. And yeah. And then
No.
when, yeah. And and you got to partially blame Deanna Roofer, the former economic developer. She hates like regular people. She likes people like her who got a building from their parents. No offense, Deanna, but you got a building from your parents. You're not better than us. Anyway, um, she she um she came in trying to be like an unflappable liberal politician of the people, and she said, "I'm here after the presentation." She listened attentively, her and her staff. And I did feel like kind of heartened by the idea that all of her staff knew my first name. I was like, okay, well, they at least took us seriously, huh? Because I did not make myself the center of this show, but they all greeted me by name nonetheless. And um, anyway, the second we were done, Linda Tyre looked down and said, "Okay, I'm not here to talk about ARPA funding. That's finished. I am here to talk about other funding opportunities." And then like everyone in the room's heart broke, and some of these people still haven't like come back to try, because it's so disheartening. And it's like, Linda, we already know about other funding opportunities from you. We've already applied for them all. We're here to talk about ARPA. You think we're stupid? We asked you to talk about ARPA because that's what we want to talk about, not the same shit we already know about. Anyway, enemy for life.
Yeah, that's
And
cold. That is a cold,
yeah.
cold response at the end of a presentation. And oh my
It's
goodness.
a
it's the only
good time to segue to remind the audience that the Weed Out is sponsored by Haterade. So
Haterade, yes.
Haterade.
Yeah.
sometimes it needs to be spilled. Haterade needs to be spilled. That's my getting the tea. You gotta spill the Haterade. That's when you gotta let somebody know, like, fuck you. For example, I'm gonna shoehorn my issue. Mayor Garcia, where are you, man? That's the mayor. Where are you? We need answers with this police department every week. There's a scandal. Like, you need to rein this shit in. And we have other normie, neoliberal, possibly conservative, possibly MAGA people complaining. I don't even know who these people are. And they're like, enough is enough. Steve Suburba. So yeah, Haterade. Bring it back, everybody. Remember, it's okay to drink some Haterade sometimes. And you can make it joyful. Sometimes it's a relief.
Thank you.
It's a relief.
The only reason I'm sad she's not running again is because I was about to get a Haterade sponsorship during her campaign. Actually, they were going to give me these extra large tracksuits so I could go around with my Haterade sponsorship.
Yeah, the thing is, this is the point about like confronting people with questionable or problematic, not for the working class. Well, we won't even put a label on it. Just policies that don't work for people that need it the most. And if we raise all boats or raise the tide, all boats rise. So yeah, sometimes Haterade works. Maybe it's you suck.
Yeah.
And this is how we deal with fascists. Don't let them just talk. Just tell them they suck. Go away. Your ideas are shit.
Well, for me, this leads me to questions because she's not running for re-election, and it's almost to it's the mayoral race in Pittsfield is coming. So I know that former city councilor John Kroll is running, but I don't know who else, and I don't know who you would vote for, and I don't. But I don't. If I know who else is running, it's easier for me. But I always did. And John was someone who was I thought a fair and typically reasonable city councilor.
Well, so you can't July 12 is the deadline for papers.
Okay.
So
there's going to be more people coming down the line. Okay.
But right now, and that's why we won't talk about city council today.
Fair enough.
But mayor is okay. There's 3 people right now, only one of whom has submitted the required number of signatures. And that, yeah, how will I blank out on this, which I specifically looked up to tell you? But anyway, I'm not gonna. I'd rather say nothing than say the wrong name.
No, that's okay.
But
I had
anyway.
looked, but I couldn't find anything on social media, and other than John's. So that's why.
Yeah. So Pete Marchetti, he is the chair of the city council now, is running for mayor.
Damn. Okay.
And Craig Gaetani,
Oh,
a local color commentator at city council meetings. He's always coming to tell him that he could fix our water problems. Like that, basically, he just signs up for a 3-minute speech to present and represent his plans for the water treatment center, which may or may not be good. I haven't seen him. I don't, but that so far he seems like a one-issue guy.
okay.
But I'm willing to hear him out.
Fair enough. Same.
And we've had, I had an interesting, sorry, I'm choosing my words carefully because we have a working relationship with these people.
Right. I am. Mm-hmm.
And let me say right now, I'm leaning towards Marchetti as being the best choice.
Really?
Because he's the most receptive towards hearing public pressure. But he's also like a civility hawk, like you better say it nice. And that is frustrating because when we're dealing with like really difficult issues, not everyone's going to be able to have composure.
Absolutely. You can't.
We've talked.
Yeah, you can't ask someone for that. It's a place of white privilege to be able to say that someone should sit in the way that you're able to conduct yourself. It means you're not really thinking about where they may be in life, really, and how.
Yeah. And when possible, I will translate. The opposite of the anger translator skit of Key and Peele that I love so much is I can be the civility translator for people who are pissed off, because fury, anger, none of that scares me much. I'll just like say what they meant. It's no problem. But anyway, Marchetti is persuadable.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't have a feel for these candidates yet. John Kroll, I gotta talk with. I gotta see, because he right now he seems, what's the oh god, I don't know the nice way to say it. I'm really trying.
It's okay. John is someone I worked with, and I was on his radio show like 10, 12 years ago. He was very supportive of like the burlesque in the Berkshires that I was working with. Nicole Rizzo and her group, Gypsy Lane, when I worked with them. Yep. So he was someone 10 or 12 years ago who really, when he was in city council and had that radio show, who really did try to bring a lot of people's, like a lot of things in the community to attention. And I did feel when he sat on council, I felt like he was often a receptive city councilor. That said, we haven't we speak like as acquaintances over the years very little, but I don't know much about where he stands on the his mayoral political stance at this point too. So I'd need to hear everybody's 1, 2, 3 elevator pitch at least.
Well, I think that he had the opportunity to support you and saw it as an opportunity and did it.
I'm sure.
It's just, I don't know what he believes himself. But I know that he's a handsome guy. I hope he hears that part. And he takes advantage of his opportunities in a clever and good way. And one of my favorite characters on Game of Thrones was Littlefinger. He's not a great guy, but he's a great character. And I don't know about John Kroll yet.
That's fair.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, no, it's fair.
I'm gonna talk to him.
Yeah, I mean, people, and when you're running for office, especially I think right now, after I know there are people all over Pittsfield and the Berkshires that would, without even mentioning political party or what you believe, really are drinking the hatred for Mayor Tyre. So I think it will be an interesting election. Like I think it will be kind of a cool mayoral race. I hope there are debates because if there are at least two or three, I think a debate between Marchetti, Kroll, and whoever else is running that. Gaetani, is it that you said?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that would, I think, be interesting. Just generally, I've seen Peter Marchetti speak before too, and he is also, like you said, he seems like a very reasonable, receptive person who I think could debate someone in that respect. But I think Pittsfield's ready for change, and they do need someone who's very receptive to focusing on the community versus sticking with the status quo. Former city councilor Helen Moon is someone who I just always turn to, who I feel really like stuck to policy and what her values are, drove her policy decisions, and I really hope I hope that a mayor steps in that would embody that type of leadership.
Yeah, I'm gonna note that for a minute from now because that's one other subject we had coming. But yes, Helen Moon, even when we disagree on anything, I count on her because she is honest and her belief system is rational, self-consistent, and she lives by it. So it's like the perfect type of person to agree or disagree with because like there's no mystery. Yes, she definitely stands where she stands and I respect her.
Yeah, and she'll tell you why, or like you said, I completely agree.
Yeah,
it's not a bad type of person to have in those positions.
Yeah, exactly. But it's a bad type of position for her to have because of the hate.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
I'd love if she could handle it again someday, and she might. But the hatred she got was it was disgusting.
Mm-hmm.
And also, shout out to the hatred Marchetti got. Bianchi, enemy for life, just kept talking about Marchetti's husband in a slimy way. Not like in a cool way, like, oh, your husband's cool, but like, I bet his husband knows, just making it a dirty thing.
Oh, no.
And I'm still mad about it years later. I didn't even know Marchetti then. And it was just such a disgusting gambit. Like, Bianchi, go do whatever threat I'm not allowed to say to yourself. Just
bye.
End my pain of knowing you exist.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm bringing haterade. You brought me on to be positive, but
it's okay.
It's an election.
It's an election cycle.
People.
Exactly. Hard to stay positive in an election cycle fully. There are glimmers of hope. That's all we can hold on to.
I am positive that some of our extended network has the organization, the profile, and the persuasion power to influence whoever wins or make people believe we have that influence enough to be flexible on some positions and make some commitments, not just our own thing, but with our group that we work with on police abolition, which is like our shared favorite topic, us three, and a focus of your show. We have a network, including Helen Moon, working on that with Invest Pittsfield, Meg Basong, a bunch of people. And we have our own network with Roots and Dreams and Mustard Seeds and other community groups that we work with. And I think we have enough organization and people power to kind of put people in a position where they're a little bit scared to cross us publicly, as long as we stay on the correct side of reasonable demands. That's the politics stuff that I like, that builds working class power. I'd like to see a working class party. That's like a year or two from now. on my wish list.
Well, that's a good wish list to have. And I know you may not, I don't know if you see what's happening in Greenfield, but it's a good time to remind the audience and people in Pittsfield, if you don't look toward Greenfield, like they are kind of taking back some of the community funding and working together as a community, and like their counselors are just really being reasonable in terms of looking at what's happening with different police officers, the schools being underfunded, potentially things, just financial things that really, when you look at it, it's about how your values again line up with how your policies and what you fund in your community. So I'm really excited about what's happening in Greenfield because it does show that like a council can stand up to a mayor and large important institutions and really upset them and then continue to make positive change, because just because an institution or a person is upset doesn't mean that you have done the wrong thing. It may mean you've done the right thing. And so I hope that Pittsfield gets to that place. I know that it'll be interesting. I'm excited actually to watch like I said, the mayoral election unfold. And
yeah, if Ricardo Morales is listening to this, I hope Department of Public Works, Department of Public Utilities hosts one of the debates so Gaetani can truly shine on his one issue, if possible.
God, yes, please. That's good. Yeah, that's fair. He might have a hard time if he's only really like holding on to that one issue.
If you could get any candidate that had a good plan and was single-minded about fixing something we literally all fucking need. We all need water and we all need sewer and we all need to make sure it works properly. It's best for everybody, right? So, I mean, but the problem is these people, who knows where they go with cops, where they go with dealing with the houseless population or the kids in the neighborhood being fucking kids, especially, impoverished, marginalized communities of kids doing what happens when you're impoverished and marginalized. And it's just like, God damn, the problem with that guy is probably he's very binary thinking, round them
That's
up, right. Then the problem's away, and that's actually happening in places like New York City. Like Eric Adams is a fucking fuck that motherfucker, on the too far away, but Pittsfield to New York, it's the same scary bullshit. And we just hope for harm reduction. It's a real big harm reduction thing, participating in electoralism.
Yeah, as long as it really is reducing the
truly
harm, I'm in favor of it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because I don't see voting for Joe Biden as truly harm reduction, because that motherfucker wants more cops, more. He's got it.
And he got it.
Yeah. He'll get more.
If he gets another 4 years, more fucking cops. And then we'll fall asleep on the authoritarian party, and then boom, all these cops, these fucking incompetent fascists, just weaponized. Great.
Speaking of fascism, there's something that I said to myself out loud when I was listening to a recent episode, because fascism comes up enough, and I have listened to everything so far, all of the episodes.
Oh, thank you so much, Michael.
Sure. You're on my rotation. It's a complicated rotation we don't have time to get into, but you're on it. And I've listened to everything so far. But I wanted to tell the listeners, because a lot of times fascism gets talked about and there's a lot of theories and explanations, definitions, whatever floating around. And I just wanted listeners who are involved in this to consider that the thing that fascists really love to do above all, to build their power base, because they're a false populism. So they try to, they may take advantage of your workers' movements and call themselves National Socialists, whatever. But another thing they like to do is they really need to do this to build unity by selecting a target, a minority group, a religious minority. Now it's trans people. I can't say a gender minority because it doesn't make sense, but we need a term for that someday. But anyhow, they select one and they try to make that a valid object for state violence and vigilante hatred and vigilante violence. So that's like Black people are the perpetual for 300 and something years now. They're the perpetual target of that, even before fascism was invented. But trans people, homeless people are really the biggest targets right now, along with Black people. It's like a cross racial opposite of a coalition. And the fascists love it because it's going to help. If you get on with hating the homeless, you get your targeted advertising and you get other stuff, other types of hate brought to you with people with easy solutions that you don't have to think about. And that's how liberals can fall to fascism. The easy solutions you don't have to think about to a problem that is real, but we point the wrong direction for where the problem's coming from.
And it's, you brought up the homeless population and obviously our Black population that have been dealing with this for almost 500 years, not just in America from Americans, just your Eurocentric fuckheads. And we've plundered Africa and it's really fucked up. And the reality is today the most missing, like common missing person is Black or indigenous trans woman or woman. Like those like intersections right there, they're the ones that are least cared about. They're the ones that are most disposable to this thinking that, because like white women don't care. I mean, I'm sorry, I shouldn't say that. The way we
are not a monolith.
Yeah, we're not.
I'm just kidding.
White women will definitely get the rah-rahs going for other white women that get hurt by the system. We see it all the time. Or not.
We can be monsters. I will say it out loud.
But then they don't care. So the intersectionality is it still always goes back to usually homeless, because those are the most unsolved murders and disappearings, and they just, who knows what happens to these people. And like Jordan Neely, I mean, we know what happened to him in New York City, right? We know. But really, that's not just because it was filmed. Like that's like this happens a lot. I mean, being on the street is really dangerous. So, because not, and like there was a story in San Francisco recently that it was somebody that used to work for the government that was going around and assaulting homeless people. It's not people assaulting homeless people all the time. Yes, that happens. Obviously, these people are in dire straits. So crazy shit happens and they do crazy shit. But it turns out there was this rash of like homeless people just being assaulted at like, it turned out it was this dude that used to work for the city. So
I know even in Pittsfield there was like a very large homeless population within the last 5 years. Maybe it's been longer, but they were living in Springside Park.
This is an ongoing issue.
It's still happening.
With the hate.
Okay.
And the hatred of them is insane.
It's insane. We like people here were even organizing and bringing stuff over, but like the amount of it, also using them as props, like the Kennedy campaign, Andrea, what was the former DA? They all just went there.
Andrea.
They all went there and took photos with them and like showed. It was just terrible. The entire thing was handled so badly. When I saw it, I didn't know it was still going on. But
they keep getting dispersed from there, and you'll see that like the cops will really like tear up their tents or whatever, or maybe the cops will say it's not them, but I guess it's them when they're off duty. I can't make that accusation. Maybe other people have Punisher decals on the back of their car, who knows.
It's also the vigilante stuff too, like you were talking. Always murder or even assault. It's literally just going to destroying somebody's property because they're off getting some food and they're not there to defend their tent, and these assholes come through and wreck shit. Like it's really frustrating. And again, the solution is getting people housing and the mental health or the health care they need, and not even just health, just food.
Basic needs.
And then
just a warm place to be. It's not that complicated a lot of times, and then you go from there. We should You have to be there
Yeah.
before you can do anything else.
I'm pretty sure Victor Hugo said, "Give the hungry bread, then ask of them morality." And that's an organizing principle if I ever heard one.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Like, let me eat, please.
Yeah. The thing though that I did want to say is that, like, telling people these ideas are fascist and telling people fascist ideas are wrong, that's fine, whatever. That's liberal awareness raising sometimes. But the number one way to cancel a stigma, or not cancel, that's a loaded word now, but to smash a stigma is like exposure and actually mixing together. So the best thing you can do is create a space where trans people, black people, homeless people feel like they can go without being hassled, and make it a space where regular ass white people, liberals, also feel like there's a reason to be there, and just let them mix, not along the line of this being a political thing, but actually mix. Like churches do this naturally, which is cool of them. Thanks, churches. But uh so we were doing a food drive the other day, and on Melville Street we delivered it to, and we had some affluent white volunteers that brought food to us because we didn't have our truck thing we were going to have. And while we were unloading, like four loud young black kids ran by, one doing a wheelie, screaming at us and making gun fingers. And they were like the affluent volunteers who I'm thankful for, like, put up their eyebrow, and I saw a chance like for leadership or whatever, because I was already explaining what we do. And I said, yeah, like for example, this, if people here saw something like this, they could be frightened and not know this is normal behavior from children. They could read it wrong. But if I'm here to not react to behavior like that, I can cue other people to not react. And to have that like bluntly narrated to the affluent liberal couple as it was happening was really fun for me, because they also didn't react. They didn't call the police. They didn't like stare after the kid and be mad that they got gun fingers. They just like handled it the way you should, which is just like, I nodded to the kid as you. I didn't care. He's just messing around.
Yeah, like no one was hurt.
Yeah, no feelings were hurt either, because I dictated. I described how to not have hurt feelings. I don't know if these people already would have known that without me, but I know that we need regular ass people who can speak that affluent liberal language to explain how to interpret. You need to bridge those communities because they both exist.
No, absolutely. And that's why, like those, like you said, churches do it. And often, like, we've talked about it in other episodes you've probably heard, where like those community oversight groups or like police oversight groups can be really daunting, but sometimes it is a lot of people from all different like walks or like different levels of the community. It could be affluent, it could be others. I know here in my town it definitely was a good mix, and we were able to talk to all of our perspective groups and bring in other voices from the community. I know it's not always like that because again, time and availability. I do think that towns should stipend and give people potentially pay them for the time involved. Because it's really, I ended up, and personally, because once I found out we had no ability to do anything, I stepped down. And I understand why people would stay in, but I think there's something really nice about being able to talk to, especially in my town where it's a lot of nice, affluent, liberal, well-meaning individuals who really are they or their intentions are good. But sometimes they are just not able to see things. Like they still think we should fund things the way we fund things here, and that's okay. But I do agree with you that if I'm able to talk to them and we can go back and forth, it's at least easier for me if I can understand where they're coming from.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to talk to your community members, so I just want to let people know if it is hard for you to engage, I understand because sometimes it can be really difficult. And like you said, Michael, you brought everyone that's fighting together to try to fix
Yeah, and
it. And I'm sure that's really hard. Yeah.
I literally broke into tears at a meeting that wasn't even that meeting. It was a whole different group of people who asked me, how am I
Oh
doing?
God.
And I started crying because I was so frustrated. And then a different meeting was so bad with that group of, the conflict's not even over yet, but it's like getting good.
Okay.
It's getting there.
Okay.
Another meeting with them was so bad I did not eat for 4 days.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah.
They're putting you through it.
Oh, they're so. When does cluelessness become a crime?
It's hard to say.
I don't
That's a good question.
I try not to be clueless.
Me too, but it's hard. Like, I mean, there are people where I'm like, I'm gonna pretend now because you don't know.
But also, humility, guys.
Um,
That's how you get. Like some people misconstrue my confidence as like arrogance, or at least definitely when I was younger, and I've learned to like project better, differently into the world because a lot of people tell you like you seem arrogant. It's like no, I'm just extremely focused and determined when I get tunnel vision. So I've thought of every potential possibility, and I come across as confidence. But like I realize once you start showing people you can have humility and learn and like be wrong. Because I was always that way, but I feel like I was projecting like don't challenge me, like. But when people do challenge you, you open the window, and then, I've learned to like project. It's okay to challenge me more now, in general
Nice.
as an adult. So good for the world there because I was kind of an asshole. That's coming up, right? So yeah, I mean, humility is a big part of it, and like I want to just tie us back to the beginning where you talked about your partner sharing the
Yeah.
it's important to have humility for a good functioning partnership and organization. It's important to argue your values. So, and hopefully if your values align, most of the time you're probably coming to similar conclusions.
yeah. So I wanted to ask Michael about the Solidarity Economy Festival coming up in June. And kind of, I know we want to get the word out about that, but could you tell us a little bit about it, when it is, what's going on?
Yeah. June 10 in the Pittsfield Common Park.
Awesome.
We're having it's like concurrent at first with the farmers market that's already there, and then they're all leaving, and it's us. And it's a whole bunch of people from across the state working on the Solidarity Economy Network. And what that means, it's a variety of post-capitalists of all stripes. It's non-denominational post-capitalists. Some people are trying to do like Richard Wolff style parallel economy development, like co-ops. And some people are like straight up activists. Some people are just like super on the environmental side but it's all tied together with post-capitalism. But it's like just a fun festival event. There's like a skate park and swings and basketball courts there and a stage. So it's not just like dry discussion day. It's like, hey, everybody, come and eat free food and talk to each other day.
Yeah, the common's really fun actually, and there's a splash pad. And
do
not sleep on the splash pad, adults. Bring your bathing suits if it's a hot day. It's fun.
I'm afraid of the splash pad until I can find a child escort because child escort sounds wrong. But you knew what I meant.
I did because I used to pick up my nephew and we would go there together, and I felt like it was more normal because he was with me.
Yeah, I can't just go as a big fat guy like to the splash pad.
All right, we'll have to find a child escort.
A child, yeah, this is getting clipped. Child escort. You guys are gonna put that on YouTube that I asked for a child escort.
It's more like we need them to be, the guide. They just have to be there to guide us.
Child guide.
Yeah. A child chaperone.
Oh, chaperone. That's very nice.
That is nice.
I need a chaperone under the age of 12 to bring me to the splash pad on a hot day.
Well, yeah. And I mean, you never know. People coming to the festival may have kids. You just got to get in on that.
I was so happy when my friend was too tired to bring her kid on the splash pad one day. I was like, yeah, I'll bring him.
Right? So fun.
Finally.
Yeah. You're like, score. That's a really nice day. They redid the common really, like, I know it's been a while now, but it's beautiful. And the stage, like you said, the space is just,
Yeah.
it's right downtown. It's nice. I always like to check it out. And that's close to King Cone and Dairy Cone, two rival Pittsfield ice cream rivals.
Yeah.
I guess my aggro equivalent to that would be I want to be invited into a water balloon fight with a bunch of preteens or teenagers. Like, let me in. I want to wreck you. Um, and I last time I remember having a water balloon fight, I remember, getting a lot of trouble with my mom because there was fucking water balloons all over the property or the house. Finding it for weeks. The Solidarity Festival is going to be on June 10th and June 11th.
Yeah. So June 10th is in the common, and it's a day of like, if you don't know what the hell anything is and you just want to have a good time, that's the day to go. It's all day, like 9 to 6 or 9 to 5 or something. And we're literally, it's just there, friendly discussion, free food, music, interactive, not like games like cornhole or jarts, but like maybe some other like more heady games. We might just do pickup basketball though. A bunch of people were like, yeah, let's just play the game of Massachusetts. Invented Springfield.
Hell yeah.
Then the next day is at BCC, and it's more like a membership. Anyone can come, but it's like more to discuss some of the observations we had during the festival and in the last year, and to kind of discuss our priorities for the coming year. And that's an all-day thing too. Everything's free. Food is free. It's just come and enjoy it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely planning on going.
Oh, good. You can go as guests to enjoy yourself and eat, or you can sign up to do a table. Whatever you want. I'll just send you the Eventbrite.
Please do. Maybe we'll need a table.
Yeah, I guess we'll have to talk about that off air, Joanna.
Yeah.
Maybe
We definitely will.
But yeah, I mean, I'm definitely down. June's a good time of year. I love one of my favorite months. So.
And it's also really good. I like when people go to these things because then they find out that these things, it's more than just me. It's more than just my organization. It is more than just my ideas. There are other people with other ideas there. And then you get to see that it's like our whole goal is to let all the people understand they have a role in making a new world if they want to. It's not just like for me to imagine a new world and then tell you what it was and do it. It's like, it's about negotiation and discussion and receptivity.
Absolutely.
And chilling.
I just feel like sometimes when you're doing this work, you do start to feel alone because you're siloed, and it's a lot of sometimes not super positive stuff, even though it is positive at the same time. Like you said, you cried when someone asked, "How are you doing?" because things are just so hard sometimes. So I think like the name alone, like the Solidarity Economy Festival, I think it sometimes just gives me hope, like this podcast does, when we get to meet other people who are like-minded, even if it's not the same and we have to negotiate and talk, it's still really uplifting.
So I guess, please, everybody listening, check this festival out in Pittsfield. It's going to be June 10th and June 11th. We will link it on the website notes as always, or our Substack. So please follow our Substack, follow all of our social medias, whatever one you are on or prefer. As always, give us a like, share, follow, review. All that stuff helps us shape our content and also get boosted in the algorithm and get it out to more people. So as always, before we go, we're going to do lightning round, ghoulery and tomfoolery. And it's light, but yet absolutely not. It's actually disgraceful and really it epitomized exactly what Joanne and I gripe about the most with propaganda and social media propaganda. So Joanna, please drum roll and tell us what this week's ghoulery and tomfoolery is.
It's out of Mass Live. It's regarding, is it the prom in East Hampton where there are cops that came out, it seems like for a photo shoot, and helped like the prom goers like adjust their ties and like get fancier for the event. And then it was used obviously by Mass Live as like a piece of propaganda to make, some people start feeling warm and fuzzy when they see the police officers fixing the ties or braiding people's hair. But I feel like if I had kids, keep cops away from them. And I don't know, it's like using children as props, even if they're going to prom, they're still kids.
So lightning round, Michael, thoughts on, and I believe it was Southwick,
Oh,
Joanna,
sorry. That makes more sense than East Hampton. That tracks.
and yeah, so Michael, please, lightning round thought on it's either this or squirrels. I can never I get more enraged because it's children, but it's the same level of overt propaganda softening. So
Yeah.
please tell.
Hot take is that if you've ever seen a cop out of uniform, you wouldn't be having them help your kid with the high fashion stuff. That's my hot take.
So good. So good.
Okay, that's
Yeah. Besides that, yeah, I share your disgust. I think that's almost as bad as our cop ice cream cone wagon.
oh my god,
It's right up
when free ice cream, gross.
I will not be offended if you continue the ghoulery tomfoolery without me, though I'm sad that I'm not. But
No, that's pretty much it. So thank you so much for joining us, and really appreciate, as always, your activism and your organizing, and just being a good community member of Pittsfield.
thank you. I appreciate you so much. I can't wait to go back and talk about the other stuff that we didn't talk about. But I'm gonna send you some other cool people.
Yes, please do. And you can come anytime.
All right. Nice to talk to you, Michael. We'll see you next time.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Right, bye.
All right, Joanna. So I'm gonna end this ghoulery and tomfoolery. Michael had a heart out. He gave us a lot of time. So as always, we appreciate him. But I want to just be like, listen, people, cops around kids, they don't prevent school shootings. Not one school shooting has been effectively prevented or even minimized by the presence of an SRO since Columbine. So that's like 25 years, right? Now, then with the Explorer programs, the youth initiatives that police engage in, such as in Stoughton with the Sandra Birchmore case, where they get access to young people, doesn't matter their gender, none of it matters. They're getting access to people where there's a power dynamic and they're a supposed authority. So there's a blind spot in a lot of people's eyes for police, and they're put in a position of a lot of power. And it's been shown that they are not safe around children. So even for cute photo ops, dissociating how often they're involved with disgusting crimes. If you go to our TikTok, I want to shout out our TikTok because we share a lot of this man's content. He's an ex-officer. His name's I believe Captain ACAB 1312. He's done some stories about it even out of Holyoke, but he covers a lot of how often these men, it's always men, are sexual predators to young people, and they exploit their power dynamic. So cops should never be around kids, SRO or otherwise. Does not matter. No cops around kids, period.
Hard to agree.
It's like the numbers and just the sheer amount of stories that, Mass Live, for example, will share it, will write one blurb about it, just like the sexual misconduct of Captain Reyes in Holyoke. They'll write one blurb about it, but then they'll have 10 different versions of this cops at prom bullshit. And it's like, see, they're fine around kids, but Sandra Birchmore, fucking crickets. and it's just disgusting. It's disgusting.
It is.
Kids aren't props.
Well, and there are other examples like nationally. I don't know if in Massachusetts, but I can check and share in the notes where even when resource officers are in elementary schools, they tend to target like children of color and treat them almost like adults, like handcuff them, throw them against the wall. Like it's just
There's a story on
they're
the poll left.
oh,
And
okay.
again,
That's I
it's
thought I,
there's no follow-up. They don't report it from 10 different angles. They're not doing a bunch of blog posts about it. They write one time, it's there, but then there's 10 stories about them saving an owl, cop saving an
yeah, I'll
owl.
share that Walpole story though for people to see because I wondered why my brain had recently what it had seen. It must have been that.
Children have no business to be in handcuffs. Sorry.
No, that's awful. Like I wouldn't even want someone with a gun in the same building as my children. Like that's so I just keep like you said, keep cops away from kids.
For all the people that think it's a good idea because like they think they actually like people out there who or that you may know listening, or maybe you yourself are on the fence here. It's like, well, if there's a gun there, I want somebody with a gun to stop the guy with a gun. Great. I get it. I understand that logic. We have 25 years of proving this does not work. So there's no reason. So then you're also turning the school into a fucking prison. And then we're just making the prison to school to prison pipeline just overt. So no more cops, and they're not COs. They're not there to keep the peace. They're children. Give the school the resources, the staffing they require to manage developing human beings who are imperfect. Throwing them in handcuffs ain't it. So, foolery, tomfoolery. Fuck you, Mass Live. Fuck you for your access journalism and and your disgusting propaganda.
Yeah, it is really bad.
And their transphobia too. The way they frame things for trans content or like drag queens and stuff, and they give credence to the small minority of this country that are a bunch of bigots or in this area. And they the way they framed the whole ladies in East Hampton superintendent search. And Shoestring did an article. We should link this to the Shoestring article regarding that and them calling out the Gazette and Mass Live and other local entities of like not doing conclusive contextual reporting.
Yeah, they
And
focused on weird stuff. Like it wasn't like the truth. It was basically just to make those women look weird.
And maybe that's true, but maybe he's also had issues with racial stuff in the past when he was principal, because that's what was reported in the Shoestring. So like it's not saying, maybe he was already kind of was on the fence, but like he was a known commodity and he had relationship with people on the staff. It might be as simple as that, human being things, and then it just went over the edge one day in the process, and it was rescinded and whatever. Like these things happen, but the way they frame these stories and omit by ignorance, just being like, oh, didn't see it, so didn't need to write about it. But it's like, you didn't confirm if you asked the question that the rest of us are asking when we report stories. Joanna and I are part-time journalists. We know that. When somebody reads this, are they going to be able to ask questions that we should at least acknowledge we tried to answer? Question mark, like at least recognize. Anyways, so I'm getting into a little too editorial, and I'm not on Mass Live's payroll, so fuck them. But again, I like to graffiti all their posts that are propaganda with "This is propaganda," just to get people thinking in the comments. I don't know. That's my little hobby of the weed out. Anyways, so yeah, Goolery, tomfoolery. I'm glad we had Michael on. Everybody, please go to the www.theweedout.com or just follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Substack, and then you could be on our email list. So when an episode comes out or a piece comes out in on our Substack or via, the Shoestring or whatever in the future, you'll be alerted to it and tell us, share us, like us, rate us, give us feedback. Feel free to email us at theweedout@gmail.com. We take tips and also criticism. So please always feel free. And I don't know, Joanna, do you have any other thoughts before we wrap this one up?
I was really excited to get to talk with Michael, and I hope everyone will check out Roots and Dreams and Mustard Seeds if you already haven't, and support them as much as you can. Hopefully, you'll show up for the Solidarity Economy Festival in Pittsfield. It sounds like June 10th is the day for someone who just wants to get to know what's going on. And I don't know if you're able to, like Spencer said, get involved through just sharing, liking, and supporting a group like Michael's or our podcast or the Shoestring just by following along. That's really helpful. So thank you to all of our listeners and to everyone who does support us in any way that they can.
Thanks to everybody for listening. And as always, keep looking for the ghouls and the nonsense in your backyard so we can grow a beautiful garden. And looking forward to some good weather the next couple of weeks. So enjoy the sunshine, get that vitamin D, and don't let the bullshit get you down. People work that Michael and his organization are doing is a joyful thing, and it's hard work. It's hard work building community, but it matters in the long run, and we need to build a better world for the future generations. So thank everybody for tuning in and sharing.
Take care.